Hi there, I'm Annalise. I built a $13 million business, quietly on my own, thinking maybe one day my family would just be proud. Instead, at Thanksgiving dinner, my sister exposed it to the whole room. And that was just the beginning. They didn't just want congratulations, they wanted access, control, money. Then came the fake job requests, credit card fraud, even a family meeting to guilt-trip me into funding my sister's dream business. But the worst part? They planned it all, weeks before I even walked through that door. What happens when your success becomes a target and the people aiming are your own family? The air in Coeur d'Alene always smelled like pine and frozen lake water, especially in late November. The familiar crunch of gravel under my boots should have made me feel something, nostalgia maybe, but it didn't. Not anymore. The town hadn't changed, but I had, and now even my shadow felt out of place. When I stepped up to my mother's porch that morning, no one opened the door. I stood there for a moment, hand half raised, before turning the knob and letting myself in. The scent of stuffing and reheated gravy lingered in the air. Briley's boyfriend Milo lounged on the living room couch with his feet up, glued to a football game. He barely looked up. "Hey," he muttered, not taking his eyes off the screen. "They're in the kitchen." No hug, no welcome home, just that. I set my bag down, adjusted the scarf around my neck, and walked into a house I used to call mine. But even the floorboards didn't creak the same. Mom stood at the counter stirring cranberry sauce, humming something off-key. Briley was flipping through a binder of color palettes, likely another business idea she wouldn't follow through with. Dad was nowhere in sight. I guessed he'd retreated to the garage, his sanctuary during every holiday. "Oh, you're here," Mom said without turning. "We didn't expect you till later." I glanced at the clock. "It's noon." She shrugged, too busy arranging deviled eggs to make eye contact. I noticed a stack of photo prints on the table, balloons, banners, cake, and paused. Briley caught my look and smiled proudly. "Oh, those. That was last weekend. My graduation party." "Graduation party?" I blinked. "You graduated?" "Interior design certificate. It's online, but still counts," she said with a toss of her hair. "The whole family came. Even Aunt Diane drove in from Spokane. It was a blast." I turned to Mom. "No one told me." She wiped her hands on a towel and said, "We figured you were busy with whatever you do, traveling, working with those antique people. We didn't want to bother you." I swallowed back the sour taste creeping up my throat. "Bother me?" Briley added. "I posted all the pics, didn't you see? Maybe you're not following my new account." Maybe I wasn't. Or maybe I stopped checking years ago when it became clear that family gatherings happened with or without me. Dinner was as silent as a church during confession. The table was full, cousins, in-laws, even a neighbor or two, but no one asked me about my work, my life, or anything beyond the obligatory, "How's the weather in Milwaukee?" Then it happened. Uncle Rich raised his glass and said, "To Annalise, always so composed, never a hair out of place, always got it together." I smiled politely, ready to down my wine and move on, but Briley's eyes brimmed with tears. "You don't know what it's like," she said, voice cracking, "to fail over and over again while your sister just wins at everything." Forks froze midair. Conversations died. The room tilted. Briley covered her face and sobbed. "I've tried, I really have, but nobody sees how hard it is for me to just keep up." Mom rushed to her side. "Oh, sweetheart, you're doing your best." Dad had reappeared just in time to frown in my direction. The implication was clear. I had caused this. My success was an attack. My composure, a weapon. Later, I slipped away upstairs, desperate for a few minutes of silence. My old room still smelled faintly of peppermint and dust. The walls were bare now, stripped of the posters and awards that once lined them. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my laptop to check a few emails. It was automatic, mechanical, something to remind me who I really was outside this house. A notification popped up from Instagram. Briley had posted a photo of herself, smiling, radiant, and around her neck was the Edwardian necklace I'd spent months sourcing and customizing for our mother's 60th, a rare, pale sapphire set in antique gold. The caption read, "Mom said I've always deserved the beautiful things in life." I stared at the screen, the blood draining from my face. That necklace had been wrapped in tissue paper, tied with a note that said, "For everything you sacrificed, Mom." She'd barely glanced at it the day I gave it to her. Now it sparkled on Briley's throat like it had always belonged there. Downstairs I heard them laughing. Someone turned up the music. The sound muffled, but that didn't dull its sting. I closed the laptop, set it aside, and leaned back against the headboard. The room felt smaller than I remembered, or maybe I'd just grown past it. I thought of the time I won first place at the state science fair in 7th grade, came home holding the trophy like it was gold. Mom had glanced at it, said, "That's nice," then turned to help Briley tie her shoelaces. Invisible. That was always my role in this house, the one who didn't need attention, the one who had it all together. I didn't cry. That part of me shut down a long time ago. Instead, I logged into my company's client portal and approved an appraisal report for a collection being prepped for a Manhattan exhibit. My name, Annalise Hayes, flashed in the digital signature. It grounded me. A second notification came in, an email. The sender, Briley. Subject, "Can you take a quick look at my resume? I need it for this job I'm applying to." Right beneath it, another. From Dad. Subject, "We need to talk. About family." I didn't answer either email, just shut the laptop, left it on the nightstand, and lay back on the bed. The house was still, except for the TV downstairs humming with some holiday rerun. Laughter floated up through the floorboards. My door was closed, but I could still feel the house pressing in. Hours passed, like water slipping down glass. I must have dozed off in my jeans because I woke to my phone buzzing just after midnight. Dad. I stared at the screen, debating. But habit wins over reason sometimes, and a small part of me still wanted to hear something kind, so I picked up. "You're awake," he said. "Barely." "No. How are you? No happy Thanksgiving." He got to the point. "Your sister's struggling. You know that, don't you?" I stayed quiet. "She's trying. Not everyone's wired like you. You've got a head for numbers. Some people don't get handed that." "Handed?" He kept going. "Just don't let your success turn you cold. That's not what family's about. You're not better than us because your life looks nice on paper." My jaw clenched. "I never said I was." "You didn't have to." Then came the dagger. "You've changed, Annalise." Click. I lay there afterward, heart pounding louder than the wind tapping the window. Not angry, just scraped raw, like someone rubbed sandpaper over the softest parts of me, then blamed me for bleeding. I didn't sleep much after that. By morning, I was already up, brushing my teeth with a dusty travel kit. I tossed my hair in a bun, skipped makeup, and opened the laptop again, more reflex than intention. Briley's email was still there. Subject, "Resume help message. Hey, can you take a look before I send it to this studio in Spokane? Thanks." 3. Attachment. Briley final maybe it .docs. I clicked. It was a mess. Typos. Half-finished bullet points. One line read, "Did interior design stuff with mood boards." Another said, "Event planning? Not sure. Ask Mom." Then I saw it. She claimed she worked at Sugar Pines Bakery. That was my old job at 13. Even used my boss's name. It wasn't a real request. It was bait. A guilt trap. I didn't respond. Just saved the file in a folder labeled Emotional Leverage Archived and closed the laptop again. Downstairs I poured lukewarm tea. Mom and Briley had gone to get pies. Store-bought, apparently. From the den, I overheard Aunt Diane on the phone. "Well, Wanda says Annalise is too into her career to find a decent man. You know how these women get. Independent, controlling. I mean, she's pushing 35. Laughter followed. I stood still, mug in hand. Mom walked in, holding a grocery receipt. She noticed my face but didn't flinch. "I told her you wouldn't mind," she said casually. "Just wanted them to understand your lifestyle. Not everyone gets your choices." "My choices?" She shrugged. "You know, work first. It's your path, but people talk." I set the mug down, untouched. No fire in me. Just that weight again. Not shame, just clarity. They weren't embarrassed by me. They were embarrassed for me. Back in my room, I sat on the floor, surrounded by the past. Old trophies, crayon cards Briley made when we were kids. This house had always chosen her, quietly but clearly. So, why did I come back? I told myself it was Thanksgiving. that I owed them. But deep down, I'd hoped, foolishly, that maybe this year would be different, that I wouldn't feel like an outsider in my own family. I checked the Spokane bus schedule. There was a 4:45 p.m. departure the next day. I hovered over the ticket button, but I didn't click. Not because I had hope, but because I was done running. I needed to see this through. Not for closure, just for truth. I wanted to see who they really were when I stopped making it easy to ignore me. Later that evening, while scrolling notifications, I got a ping from Venmo. Caitlin, $150, asterisk. Just a lil help, queen. You got it. Asterisk, I blinked. Then a message popped up. Your mom said you'd help. I stared at Caitlin's Venmo request for 5 full minutes, hoping it might disappear. It didn't. $150. Just a lil help, queen. You got it. Like we were close. Like she hadn't ghosted every birthday message for the past 5 years. And now she wanted money. For what exactly? I didn't respond. Didn't decline either. Just left it there like a splinter I wasn't ready to dig out. Morning crawled in behind the blinds, cold and gray. That Idaho kind of morning where caffeine feels medicinal. I could hear dishes downstairs, someone humming, probably Mom. I grabbed my phone, 4 new emails, none of them work. The first was from a cousin in Montana I hadn't seen since Briley's 6th grade recital. Hey cuz, starting a candle brand. Long story LOL. Aunt Wanda said you might want to invest? Even like $2K? The next was from my uncle's stepson, the same guy who once called me emotionally constipated at a barbecue. Yo, you're the rich one, right? Need like $300 to finish building my gaming setup. Help a brother out? My hands didn't shake from rage, just disbelief. No one was even pretending anymore. At some point, someone had drawn a $sign on my forehead, and I hadn't seen it happen. I splashed cold water on my face in the bathroom. The mirror reflected tired eyes. But what hit me harder was the restraint staring back. Years of swallowing it all down. In the hallway, I passed Briley. Leggings, oversized college hoodie she never earned. Her phone screen lit up, and I caught a glimpse. A photo of my office. She'd visited 2 summers ago. I'd regretted it since. By the time I checked Instagram, the post was already live. At @Bri_babe. Some people are just born into things, huh? #blessed #aesthetic goals. There it was. My desk, my cataloged antique brooches, my bookshelf. She knew the angle, the light. And the comments? Worse. Must be nice having a rich sister. She's probably never struggled. Where do I apply to be adopted? I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just walked, quietly, into the living room where she was scrolling next to the dog, giggling. Why are you posting pictures of my office? She blinked. What? You know what? The photo, the caption, the comments. Why? She shrugged. It's just a post. Chill. People like aspirational stuff. You always liked attention. There's a difference between being seen and being used. Before she could answer, Mom stepped in from the kitchen, drying her hands. Oh, Anne, maybe it's her way of showing love. This is how people connect now. Everything's shared. I looked at her. Not everything. I turned and walked away. No drama, just silence. That kind of calm always irritated them more. Upstairs, I opened my laptop. I needed something solid. Emails, spreadsheets, anything real. Instead, a fraud alert. New credit card opened in my name. Chase Sapphire preferred. I froze. I hadn't opened anything new. I logged in. My info was all there, address, SSN, full name. Transactions going back 6 weeks. Sephora, Apple, Pottery Barn, a boutique in Spokane. Every city Briley had tagged on social. I called the bank. The agent was polite, then puzzled. Ma'am, the account wasn't fraudulently created. It was opened in your name, and someone was added as an authorized user. Application came from an IP address in Idaho. It wasn't identity theft. It was identity hijacking. I ended the call and just sat there. Let the quiet land like ash around me. This wasn't sibling rivalry. It wasn't petty family drama. It was crossing a line. They'd stepped into my life with muddy shoes and expected gratitude for the footprints. And still, I hadn't left. Then came the voicemail. Grandma Dolores. Her voice soft and crackly. Annalise, Your mother's been calling me every day. She says, we need to talk. I didn't call Grandma back right away. I needed a minute to breathe, to process, to steady the noise building in my head. The house was still, save for the clatter of Briley reheating leftovers downstairs. I could smell turkey and burnt marshmallows, but nothing felt warm. Mid-morning rolled in gray and quiet, draping Coeur d'Alene in a kind of soft gloom. The sky held its breath. I opened the window slightly, letting in the bite of cold air, just enough to remind myself I was still real. A knock came at the door, gentle, almost apologetic. It creaked open before I answered. Dolores. She stepped inside, holding a ceramic container with both hands. Soup, the kind she always brought when something unspoken was festering. Her eyes scanned the room quickly before settling on me. You look tired, she said, her voice gentle but worn. I nodded. Did you drive all the way from Sandpoint this morning? She placed the container on the desk beside me. Your mom's been calling, every night this week. She paused. She wants me to talk to you. She said Briley needs a hand, something about her future depending on it. I leaned against the edge of the bed, my arms crossed. And you? Dolores shook her head slowly. I didn't come to convince you, sweetheart. I just needed to see you with my own eyes, see how you were holding up. She sat beside me, her sigh barely audible. That quiet kind of love, the kind that never asks for attention but is always there when the storm hits. She said you're turning your back on family, she added after a pause. But I told her, Annalise doesn't walk away without a reason. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Later that morning, around what would have been brunch if this house believed in shared meals, Mom found me in the sunroom. She was holding a navy blue folder, her lips pursed in what she probably thought was a neutral expression. Can I sit? She asked. I didn't answer. She sat anyway. I know things have been tense, but I think you'll appreciate this. It's not a handout, Annalise. It's an opportunity. She handed me the folder, flipping it open for me like a hostess presenting dessert menus. Inside were a few sheets printed on pastel pink paper. The title in loopy cursive, Briley Rose Interiors, A Vision for Elevated Living. There were mood boards of boho-themed studio apartments and blurry Pinterest quotes like, Your space reflects your soul. No cost structure, no vendor list, just dreams and fonts. She has talent, Mom said, voice tightening. She just needs someone to believe in her. And really, what's $10,000 to you? I closed the folder gently and set it back on the table between us. I'm not investing in this. Her brows shot up. But you haven't even read it. I did. And I'm not saying no because I doubt Briley. I'm saying no because I know what this really is. She narrowed her eyes. What's that supposed to mean? It means you never believed in me. Not when I begged for piano lessons. Not when I got into Northwestern. Not even when my company hit its first million. My voice didn't rise. It dropped lower, quieter, until it stung sharper. You don't see me. You only see what I can provide. Wanda stood up quickly, the chair scraping behind her. That's unfair, Annalise. You're making me out to be some kind of villain. I've done everything I could for both of you. Cruel, I said, is expecting someone to carry everyone else and still be invisible. She left without another word. Dolores stayed behind. We ended up in her guest room, where she kept her jewelry, an antique walnut chest filled with velvet-lined drawers. She opened the second one carefully, fingertips trembling as she reached for a small compartment in the back. It was empty. Something's not right, she murmured. The swan brooch, the one you gave me after your first auction deal. It's gone. She turned to me, eyes heavy. I didn't misplace it. That piece was special. I scanned the rest of the drawer. In its place was a cheap knockoff, a plastic setting where gold should have been, glass instead of stone. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. That evening, I found Briley in the driveway, putting boxes into her car. I approached without pretense. Where's Grandma's brooch? She blinked, caught off guard. What? The heirloom, the one I gave her, the one she just discovered was missing. She hesitated. It's not a big deal. I needed a deposit for the new place. It's just a trinket. My stomach turned. That wasn't yours to take. You wouldn't even notice if she hadn't said anything. That's not the point. She rolled her eyes. God, you act like you're the only one who's ever struggled. No, I said. I act like the only one who's ever had to clean up after everyone else. I turned and walked away. Back in my room, I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to Raymond, my attorney. Subject: I may need formal boundaries. I didn't send it, not yet. That night, as I was closing tabs and preparing to finally rest, a new message popped into my inbox. The sender: harper.accountingadvisor@gmail.com. Subject line: Tax-wise, you may benefit from investing in family. The body was short and full of strategic wording. Assets can become liabilities if not used for generational support. Consider reallocating some liquid holdings into your sister's venture to build equity and emotional legacy. The signature read, Harper James, Certified Wealth Consultant. But I recognized the writing style. It was my mother's voice, word for word. I sat still for a long time, staring at the email, not blinking, not breathing. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I checked the metadata. A habit from early days in appraisal work, before my team grew big enough to delegate the technical stuff. Old instincts kicked in fast. I downloaded the message, opened the source file, scanned the headers. The email was sent from an IP tied to Spectrum Cable Services, registered right here in Coeur d'Alene. The Harper James consultant wasn't in New York, or anywhere near Wall Street. They were in this house, probably just a few rooms away, watching Netflix and eating pie. I pinched the bridge of my nose and let the weight settle in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was strategy. And Mom was behind it. An hour passed. Maybe more. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and Briley's occasional laugh upstairs as she scrolled her phone. I went back to my inbox, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, that message was the worst of it. It wasn't. A notification popped up from my credit monitoring service. New account activity detected. My stomach clenched. I clicked. A student loan. Opened 3 weeks ago, co-signed by me. I blinked, checked again. The co-signer name was correct. Social security number matched mine. Annalise Hayes. The borrower? Briley Wanda Hayes? No one asked me. No one told me. They just used me. I dialed the loan provider. A chirpy representative came on the line and asked for verification. After passing their identity check, I asked directly, who submitted the application? There was a pause on the other end. The primary applicant listed the co-signer as a parent, the rep replied. But the co-signer's details, well, they came from a different email, matching your records. I asked for the source. She paused again. It was entered manually over the phone, she said. We don't record those calls publicly, but it originated from an Idaho-based landline. That line I knew belonged to my mother. I ended the call. No yelling, no crying. I just stared at the screen. I wasn't angry the way people expect you to be. Not in a breaking plates, slam the door kind of way. I was still, dead still. And in that stillness, I started collecting evidence. I pulled up a blank document and began typing notes. Timestamps, email headers, phone call summaries. I screenshotted everything. Opened a secure folder, labeled it Boundary Violation Family. I wasn't done. A ping broke the quiet. A voice note. From Maya. Hey girl. Bit random, but your mom reached out last week. Found me through the alumni group. Said she wanted to send you something sentimental and needed your address. I didn't give it, obviously, but it was weird. Just a heads up. I messaged back. Thanks. She's not sending me anything. She's collecting leverage. A few minutes later, another text arrived. From Jonah, an old friend from Northwestern. Your mom's asking about your office lease location? Said she might drop by with a gift? Seemed off. She wasn't sending gifts. She was building a profile, one piece at a time. Addresses, loans, emails, investments. In a weird way, it felt like a hostile takeover. But I wasn't a corporation. I was their daughter. Back in my room, I paced slowly, each step careful, calculated. At my desk, I picked up the phone and dialed Raymond. He answered on the second ring. Annalise? I need to formalize some protections, I said. You're ready for the cease and desist phase? He asked gently. Not just that, I replied. I want a full financial boundary agreement drafted. Identity protection, legal consequences if breached. I'll start tonight, he said. After the call, I printed out the email, highlighted the signature, scribbled "Mom" in the corner, underlined twice. It was a childish move, but it made the truth tangible. I printed the loan confirmation, flagged the confirmation number, attached the rep's name and timestamp. Then I hit record on my voice memo app. "This is Annalise Hayes," I began. "This recording serves as a verbal confirmation that I did not authorize the use of my Social Security number for any student loan in the name of Briley Hayes." When I finished the memo, I saved it to 3 separate drives: cloud, external, and private email. As I sat back, the weight of it all settled into my spine, not as pain, but posture. I was no longer shrinking. I opened a new email to Raymond Carter, ESQ, subject, cease or be cut off. I typed 3 lines beneath it. "I'm no longer issuing verbal warnings. This is your cue to act. If they come for more, they won't get it. They'll get legal." And then I hit send. I closed my laptop, stood and stretched. My body felt different, like armor had replaced exhaustion. As I moved toward the door, I heard laughter from downstairs. Briley. Then another voice, my mother's. "So she's threatening lawyers now?" A pause. "Let her. She still needs us. She just doesn't know it yet." The next day passed slowly. The snow hadn't fallen again, but the sky had stayed heavy, sunless. By early afternoon, the air inside the house felt like something waiting to snap. Around 1 p.m., Wanda knocked lightly on my bedroom door. "Lunch is ready," she said. "Just a little something before you head out." Her tone was syrupy, the kind she used when she wanted something but didn't want to ask directly. I followed her down the hall, the soft creak of the floorboards marking every reluctant step. Everyone was already seated. Briley, Dad, 2 cousins who'd stayed over, and 1 aunt who barely looked up from her phone. The table was set like it was Thanksgiving again. Cloth napkins, candied carrots, even a pie cooling on the windowsill. Overdone. Forced. Dolores wasn't there. Wanda mentioned casually, "She's resting. Headache." I didn't believe it. I suspected Dolores couldn't bear to witness what might happen next. As I slid into the seat nearest the window, the energy around the table buzzed with awkward politeness. No one looked directly at me, but I could feel their eyes dart in my direction when they thought I wasn't paying attention. The tension snapped 5 minutes in. I got up to refill my water, excused myself, and walked back toward the kitchen. That's when I noticed something wrong. My laptop, no longer on my bed. I turned fast, heart already racing, just in time to see Briley walking into the dining room with it in her arms like it was a birthday cake. "Hey, everyone," she said with a too sweet voice. "Let's see what our quiet little sister's been hiding." She flipped it open and spun it to face the table. The screen, my last active tab, was open to my company's internal dashboard. Bank records, contracts, a pending appraisal for the Whitney Museum, my investment reports. A massive total was displayed clearly at the top. $13 million. Someone gasped. One cousin whispered, "Holy..." Wanda's face turned to stone. Dad stared like I had smacked him. Even Briley hesitated, realizing the number was larger than she expected. "You've let your family struggle," Wanda said slowly. "While you sit on this? You knew I was paying for everything. I paid for your tuition, Briley, the insurance, the plumbing last winter, but you never once asked how I did it. You just expected." Briley didn't blink. "You have no idea what it's like to need help and feel ignored." "No," I said, voice steady. "You have no idea what it's like to give and be resented for not giving more." Dad slammed his hand on the table. "You should be ashamed. Family means support." "And manipulation is what?" I asked. The room went dead quiet. Briley stood. "Fine. You want to be cold? I can be cold too." She stormed out. Less than 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a tag notification from Instagram. An old picture of us, maybe 10 years ago. Her arm looped through mine at a birthday party. Her caption read, "I held her hand through every milestone. Never thought she'd hide millions while her own family struggled to pay rent. But I guess money changes people." #family first, #heartbroken. It didn't take long. The comments rolled in. "How could she do that to you?" Some people forget where they came from. Others were more skeptical. "You sure she owes you anything? But the damage was done. I closed the app. Then I stood up, walked calmly out the front door, and into the cold. The air was sharp, like clarity. On the porch, I opened my phone, typed a message to Raymond. Proceed with the cease and desist. Add Briley and Wanda. Include breach of privacy. I blocked Briley, then Mom, then Gerald. I emailed the museum's legal team, informed them to lock my account with multi-factor authentication, activated alerts on every bank transaction. I wasn't just protecting my business now, I was protecting myself. I walked around the side of the house, hands deep in my coat pockets, and stared out over the frosted yard. I remembered playing here as a kid, chasing Briley, laughing when we fell into piles of leaves. Back then, I thought family meant you were safe. Now I knew better. I went back inside, past the dining room, silent now except for the sound of plates being cleared. In my room, I sat down and wrote one line in my journal. They've used my silence long enough. I stared at it, then added, they think silence equals permission, that kindness equals weakness. They forgot I built all of this. Alone. Later that night, I was finally starting to pack. The last pair of shoes. My laptop, now locked down with biometric login. I was placing a scarf into my carry-on when my phone rang again. Unknown number, but I answered anyway. This is Annalise. Miss Hayes, this is Dan from Chase Bank's Fraud Division. We've detected an attempt to remotely access your business account. The IP address appears to match a home network we have on record, located in Coeur d'Alene. I didn't even flinch. Lock it down, I said. By dawn, I was on the road. The car was quiet, humming softly against the wind. Snow had melted overnight, leaving damp patches across the pavement like the residue of old mistakes. I had left the house without saying goodbye. My flight from Spokane to Milwaukee was uneventful, just long enough for me to rehearse every conversation I wasn't going to have. By the time I landed, my voicemail box was full. Texts stacked like accusations, some from numbers I didn't recognize. When I reached my office, I didn't unpack. I didn't even turn on the lights. I just sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and began checking my accounts. The first message came in almost immediately. Hey, Annalise, not sure if you saw this yet, but your mom reached out to a few of us, said she's worried you're having some kind of breakdown, told us to check in. Hope you're okay. It was from Lauren, a friend I hadn't spoken to since grad school. 2 more messages followed. One even had screenshots. There it was. Wanda, messaging a journalist I once interned with at the Chicago Tribune, trying to spin a private family concern into something public. I shut the laptop. My phone buzzed again. A text from Wanda. Please, just one call. We can talk like adults. I should have deleted it. Instead, I called. The screen blinked, then connected. At first it was quiet. Then the voices began. Annalise, sweetheart, we're all here, Wanda said. We just want to understand what's going on. All? Hi, Anne, Aunt Diane chimed in. This isn't like you. Your mother's been sick with worry, Uncle Rich added. You don't just walk away from your family. That's not how you were raised. My old high school coach, of all people, spoke next. We were proud of you. What happened? It was a trap, an emotional ambush disguised as concern. I didn't walk away, I said. I backed out of a fire I didn't set. Someone scoffed. Gerald's voice. You think we're the fire? Look in the mirror, Annalise. I hung up. No goodbyes this time either. I left the office for a breath of air, settled into a booth at the cafe on 6th and Maple. The same one I'd celebrated my first consulting contract at. That felt like someone else's life now. I scrolled through my social feed. Bad idea. Briley had gone live. Again. She sat in her bedroom, the one with the lilac curtains and fairy lights. Tears ran down her cheeks in perfect cinematic streaks. A candle flickered behind her. A Taylor Swift song played softly in the background. I've tried so hard to be strong, but my sister, the one who has everything, she treats me like a burden, like I'm not even her blood. The comments poured in. You don't deserve that, girl. She sounds toxic. Cut her off. You don't need that kind of energy. Hashtags scrolled beneath the video. #family trauma, #big sister betrayal, #left behind 22,000 viewers. In less than an hour. I lowered my phone, Celeste, my assistant, sent me a message. Want me to draft a response? Something neutral but firm? No, I typed. We don't play their game, we just shut them out completely. Back at the office, I scheduled a system-wide audit, changed all passwords, enabled biometric locks for every confidential file. I even had the locks to my building replaced. It wasn't panic. It was precision. I didn't want revenge. I wanted removal. Of access, of power, of presence. That night, I sat in my home office, a mug of black coffee cooling beside me, and stared at my reflection in the dark window. They're not louder because they're right, I whispered. They're louder because they've lost control. I opened a folder labeled Legal, scanned down until I found the document Raymond had pre-drafted, Financial Boundary Agreement plus Cease and Desist Packet. I skimmed the lines. One paragraph read, any future attempts to impersonate, access, or defame the client through digital, financial, or verbal means will result in immediate legal action. I clicked Confirm on the scheduling request. We'd notarize it in the morning. That was when my phone rang again. Raymond. Annalise, he said, voice sharp, you need to see something. I sat upright. What is it? The pawn shop receipt from Briley? It wasn't just for your grandmother's brooch. What else? There were 4 additional items, 2 designer watches, a gold fountain pen, and a sapphire cufflink set, all traced back to items you reported years ago, from your personal safe. Silence. And Annalise, the timestamp on the receipt is from 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. They hadn't just ambushed me, they'd been planning it. By the time the sun cleared Milwaukee's skyline, I was already in my office, coffee untouched, blinds still drawn. The weight of the weekend sat on my chest like frost that refused to melt. Raymond arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, trenchcoat still damp from sleet. He didn't waste time with pleasantries, just handed me a manila folder thick with consequence. Fraud, identity theft, and property misuse, he said, setting it on my desk. These are no longer family grievances. These are federal. I opened it slowly. Every tab had my name. Every document trailed a fingerprint, not mine. Wanda's signature here, Briley's email login there, even Gerald's voice message, transcribed, dated, indexed. They went after your identity, your assets, your name, Raymond added. We have everything we need to move forward, quietly or publicly, your call. I'm not ashamed, I said, so let it be public. He nodded. Then we file today. As he stepped out to make the first call, Celeste entered, iPad in hand. I pulled the pawn shop video, she said. You're going to want to sit down for this. I didn't. I watched standing. The footage was grainy but damning. Briley, hood up, carried a zippered pouch. She spoke to the cashier, pulled out the brooch, then 3 more items, a Cartier box I'd kept locked away, a vintage family ring, and a Mont Blanc pen my mentor gifted me after closing my first museum exhibit. Timestamp? I asked. November 7th, she replied. 12 days before Thanksgiving, and, she hesitated. She had a key. I looked over. What? That pouch she used? It's the same monogrammed one you used in grad school. She probably made a copy of your drawer key years ago. I didn't respond. I just reached for my phone. 10 minutes later, every shared account, every emergency fund, every card still tied to my name was deactivated. Raymond filed the cease and desist letters. Digital, certified, tracked, Wanda, Briley, 2 cousins, no more appeals, no more guilt. By lunchtime, the bank confirmed the loan had been voided, on the grounds of stolen identity. Charges could still be pressed. And the company's servers? Fortified. We upgraded every firewall, every admin setting. No one could touch me again. Not financially, not legally. Celeste brought me a second coffee, this one hot. Oh, she added, almost casually, there's something happening online. I raised an eyebrow. Briley's original post is being reinterpreted. A former client of yours commented, I worked with Annalise. She's the real deal. None of this is her fault. More comments flooded in. Why does her family feel so entitled to her success? This feels like a setup. Even a YouTube channel I didn't recognize posted a 12-minute breakdown. Family gaslights CEO for millions? It had 20,000 views by mid-afternoon. I didn't smile, but something inside me finally exhaled. Back in my office, I stared at the skyline. 10 floors up, Milwaukee looked like it belonged to someone who had earned their place in it. They wanted my silence to be their sanctuary, I whispered. But my silence belongs to me. And now, it speaks. I turned back to my desk, opened a fresh draft for Raymond. Subject line: Public statement pending. Then came a knock at the door. It was the front desk courier. He held out a slim envelope addressed in delicate cursive. Return address, Dolores. Inside was a personal check, the amount, $4,750. The memo line: repayment for what they took. But what made my hands tremble wasn't the money. It was the note inside. In Dolores's hand. You don't owe us, love, but I hope you still find it. I read it twice, then placed it gently in the top drawer of my desk, beside a photo of me at age 11, holding up a science fair trophy no one had clapped for. This was what closure looked like. Not noise, not rage, just truth, finally speaking louder than obligation. 3 weeks passed like clouds, slow, shapeless, a little unreal. I stood by the wide window of my new home in Madison, just a block from Lake Mendota, and let the quiet fill me. No footsteps overhead, no arguing downstairs, just the hum of winter winds brushing the panes and the smell of pine from the small tree I'd bought, undecorated except for one silver ornament. The condo was modest by anyone else's standards, 2 bedrooms, all neutral tones, but it felt expansive, because it was mine, because no one's approval lived in the walls. I unpacked a box labeled gallery pieces and pulled out a velvet tray of brooches and heirloom earrings, prepping for the upcoming exhibition in Chicago. My fingers paused on a delicate swan pin, identical to Grandma Dolores's, only never stolen. I clipped it gently to a fabric display board. No noise, no guilt, no forced dinners where everyone smiled like it was tradition, not tension. I watered the plants by the kitchen island and caught myself humming. Not a happy tune, just human. That afternoon, I opened the wooden box I kept near my desk. The note from Dolores still sat folded inside. Her handwriting was always a little shaky, even before arthritis. They were wrong, but you did right, it read. I raised a girl who knows how to walk alone. I ran my thumb along the edge of the page, then folded it again and tucked it behind an old Polaroid of us at the county fair. Dolores with her cotton candy. Me with braces and pigtails, holding a ribbon like it was gold. I used to think winning would make them stay. That success was the trade-off for love. Turns out, I just kept paying rent on their expectations. I sat by the fireplace with a mug of peppermint tea and let the memory drift. 11 years old, giving a speech at school after winning a regional competition, rows of folding chairs, but the 2 I'd saved stayed empty. Mom said Briley had a dance recital. Dad forgot entirely. They never came, I whispered to no one, but I stayed. Raymond called mid-afternoon, routine check-in. All's quiet, he said. No countersuits, no new loans attempted. You've got full financial autonomy now. Locked down, safe. Thank you, I replied. But peace isn't just paper. No, it's when they stop renting space in my head. He chuckled lightly. Then you're almost there. After we hung up, I walked to the back patio and stepped into the light December air. There was snow on the ground, but it wasn't cruel snow. It was soft, clean, forgiving. Later that day, I wandered into the Chazen Museum alone. There was a new exhibit on antique personal jewelry, intimate artifacts of women's lives from the last century. In a glass case near the entrance, a swan-shaped brooch caught my eye. A little girl beside me pointed. That's pretty. It is, I said, crouching slightly, and it once belonged to someone who thought she'd never be seen. The girl smiled, then ran off to find her parents. I stood there a while longer, letting the light from the display case settle into my chest like warmth. Back home that evening, I lit a candle and let the silence return. This time it didn't sting, it comforted. I wrote nothing. I texted no one. I just sat with the idea that healing didn't mean erasing. It meant no longer expecting. They may never say sorry, I told myself. That's fine. I said goodbye the moment I stopped asking for love. I don't want revenge. I don't need validation. What I need is space, the kind that isn't filled with excuses, the kind that doesn't ask me to explain why I left. And if anyone ever asks, Yes, I'd do it all again. Peace didn't come easy, but I paid the full price, and I still think it was worth it. Looking back, I didn't lose my family. I lost the illusion that they'd ever truly seen me. And once I let go of that, I found space for something better. Peace on my own terms. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're unkind. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. And protecting what you've built, especially when no one helped you build it, is not betrayal. It's survival. We don't owe anyone our silence just because they share our last name. Maybe you felt that pressure too, like you're supposed to keep giving until there's nothing left. Like your success somehow belongs to everyone else. But it doesn't. It's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to stop explaining. And it's okay to walk away. Not because you're bitter, but because you're finally free. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose peace over people, or walk away from something, even someone, you thought was forever? Drop a 1 in the comments if this story touched you in any way, or let me know where in the world you're watching from. I'd really love to know. And hey, if this video helped you feel seen, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another story that speaks to the heart. Let's keep this conversation going. Your voice matters too.